Hello, and welcome to Dottie's World. And it's time for story time with Dottie. Give y'all a second.
And it's time
Oh no.
for story time
Oh no.
with Dottie. Give y'all a second. And it's time
Oh no.
for story time with Dottie.
Oh,
Give y'all a second. And it's time for story time with Dottie.
where's the echo coming from? Oh my gosh. Is that better? That's embarrassing. I don't know which of my channels had sound going on it, but I think we're live everywhere. So I'm on YouTube on Dottie's World. I'm also live on DLive on Retarded Bear. And I'm also live on Twitch, Dottie's World. So, good evening. Hello. I'm used to some people being here, and so I normally would give some shout outs and chat with people while everyone files in, but no one's here yet. So, give it a sec, see if some people join. Maybe I'll send it to some people just to make them get here. Because, I mean, it is so much more fun if you have people here to share your stream with. Because otherwise, I'm just talking to myself and the ether. And, I mean, I guess I'm talking to everyone who listens at a later time. So, hey, to everyone, all you invisible people. I'm just gonna not even bother sharing it. Whatever. You'll find me if you want to. I haven't done story time in a few weeks because I've been in South Carolina for Flattoberfest. And so we started our 5th book, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, and then I went on vacation. And so I just kind of left y'all hanging with anticipation for the next chapters, but we're back. I'm back. Back for all y'all. I see you 2 people watching. Go ahead, leave a comment so I can give you a shout out. Again, I'm on YouTube, Dottie's World. I'm on Twitch, Dottie's World. And I'm on DLive, Retarded Bear. Bane Bear, hey, hey. I knew someone was here. I can see 2 people watching. And there should be some more people filing in. I don't know if people are getting notified of my videos. I don't know. I do not know at all. I'm so not technologically inclined. Just trying to change my profile picture on Twitch today and was incapable of doing that. I don't know. I guess my picture downloaded in the wrong size, quality, whatever. I don't know. But I couldn't change my profile picture. But anyway. Yeah, so what's going on, Bane Bear? There's someone else watching, but they're not commenting, so I can't shout them out. Yeah, really not a whole lot going on. Just another Wednesday. We're back for story time, so I guess I'm just gonna read to you, Bane Bear, so lucky you. Me and everyone else will catch up whenever they catch up. Maybe people think that I'm just going to stop streaming because I took a couple weeks off. I don't know, honestly. Move my stuff so I don't trip and die on stream. So, if you're new here, we're reading the Chronicles of Narnia. We're on the 5th book, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. If you want to listen to all the other stories in the series, go to my YouTube channel, Dottie's World, and there is a playlist for all of the other books. The Magician's Nephew, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, The Horse and His Boy. I don't know how I don't remember this. I literally read them. Prince Caspian, and now we're on The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Eric DeLeon. I have the buffing signal on this live stream. I don't know if you are on or not, Dottie. I mean, everything says that I'm live, so my YouTube isn't playing. Oh my. Just chilling, putting my son to bed. He'll probably fall asleep to your voice. Hey, I mean that's nice. You don't want to hear that I'm like keeping him awake. Let's see. I mean, it shows that I'm streaming on my phone. Bang Bear, let me get you a. Just came over here. Hi, it's here on Twitch. Sue, okay. Have you now had to go to my phone instead of my iPad? This is weird. Yeah, I don't know. It shows that I'm streaming on my phone. So, I mean, I'm on my computer, but I'm looking on my phone, and it says that shows that I'm streaming. And I was gonna get Bane Bear a. Oh, we don't want to add to block list. Gosh, I never remember. How is it? I never remember how to. Hey, Barbara, my trip was awesome. I did a recap of Flattoberfest on Monday. That's on my YouTube. If you want to watch it, I talked all about everything that. Let me see. Nope, that's not the one I want. I never remember. How do you add moderator? Wait, is it this one? That one. Where's you? No, that's not it. What's the button to add moderator? Oh my gosh. I know that I found it every time. I always have this problem every time. Trying to add. La, 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 la. I am just trying to add a moderator. Oh wait, maybe that's it. Wait. I don't know. I mean, hey, 7-Eleven Lucas, what's going on? Wait. Give me 1 sec. I know, like, I have this problem every time that I want to add a moderator, and I cannot. Let me go to this. Give me 1 sec while I mute it. And mute that. There we go. Okay, now. There we go. Okay, that's the easier way to do it. Okay, Baneberry, you have a wrench now. So, you have the power to kick out the trolls. I don't really ever get trolled on story time, but just in case I do, you have the power. Okay, so is everyone good? Everyone solid? We're getting this done? I think we're getting it done. Okay, let me do some shout outs and then we can get started. So, hello to Banebear, 7-Eleven Lucas, Sue Finelli, team leader, Eric DeLeon, Barbara Bear. Okay, cool. We got y'all. We got y'all. Yay. So, I'll wield it well. I would expect nothing less from you. Yeah. It's been a long time since I had to ban someone on my channel, but I mean, I don't get a ton of live viewers, and I mean, yeah, I mean, there's really not a whole lot that you can troll me about when I'm reading a story. So, I mean, people could troll me about that little banner there that says the earth is flat, but I don't know, people don't really care. Clem Fandango, you're just lurking. Well, welcome. We're about to read a story. So sit back and relax. And if you fall asleep, I will take that as a compliment, because I never want to be told that my voice kept someone awake because I was screeching like a harpy. So if people tell me that they are lulled to sleep when I'm reading, I take that as a very good thing. So hello and welcome. Let's do this. We're on chapter 3 of The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, my personal favorite book in this series, The Chronicles of Narnia. And The Lord of the Rings is coming, Eric. It is coming. You still have to get through this book and 2 others in this series, and then we will be reading The Hobbit and all 3 of The Lord of the Rings. So, you have to be patient, but it is coming. It is happening. And I'm very excited for those, because I've read these books multiple times and I've never read The Lord of the Rings. So really looking forward to that. So sit back and enjoy the story. Chapter 3, The Lone Islands. Land in sight, shouted the man in the bows. Lucy, who had been talking to Rince on the poop, came pattering down the ladder and raced forward. As she went, she was joined by Edmund, and they found Caspian, Jernian, and Reepicheep already on the forecastle. It was a coldish morning, the sky very pale and the sea very dark blue, with little white caps of foam. And there, a little way off on the starboard bow, was the nearest of the lone islands, Falmouth, like a low green hill in the sea. And behind it, further off, the gray slopes of its sisters Dorne. I know how all y'all love the pictures. So I don't have a map of these ones because we have sailed this way, away from the mainland of Narnia. We're out to sea for these stories, so you just have to bear with me that I don't have a map of those. But there is that map, so you can enjoy that. Same old Fellowmouth, same old Dorn, said Lucy, clapping her hands. Oh, Edmund, how long it is since you and I saw them last. I've never understood why they belong to Narnia, said Caspian. Did Peter the High King conquer them? Oh, no, said Edmund. They were Narnian before our time, in the days of the White Witch. By the way, I have never yet heard how these remote islands became attached to the crown of Narnia. If I ever do, and if the story is at all interesting, I may put it in some other book. I'll have to see if there is a story about that, because it sounds interesting. Are we to put in here, sire? Asked Jernian. I shouldn't think it would be much good landing on Falmouth, said Edmund. It was almost uninhabited in our days, and it looks as if it was the same still. The people lived mostly on Dorne and a little on Avra. That's the third one. You can't see it yet. They only kept sheep on Falmouth. Then we'll have to double that cape, I suppose, said Jernian, and land on Dorne. That'll mean rowing. I'm sorry we're not landing on Falmouth, said Lucy. I'd like to walk there again. It was so lonely, a nice kind of loneliness, and all grass and clover and soft sea air. I'd love to stretch my legs too, said Caspian. I tell you what, why shouldn't we go ashore in the boat and send it back, and then we could walk across Velamath and let the Dawn Treader pick us up on the other side. If If Caspian had been as experienced then as he became later on in this voyage, he would not have made this suggestion. But at the moment it seemed an excellent one. "Oh, do let's," said Lucy. "You'll come, will you?" said Caspian to Eustace, who had come on deck with his hand bandaged. "Anything to get off this blasted boat," said Eustace. "Blasted?" said Drinian. "How do you mean?" "In a civilized country like where I come from," said Eustace, "the ships are so big that when you're inside you wouldn't know you were at sea at all." Poor Eustace, nothing is ever good enough for this poor little boy. "In that case you might just as well stay ashore," said Caspian. "Will you tell them to lower the boat, Drinian?" The king, the mouse, the two Pevensies, and Eustace all got into the boat and were pulled to the beach of Falmouth. When the boat had left them and was being rowed back, they all turned and looked round. They were surprised at how small the Dawn Treader looked. Lucy was of course barefoot, having kicked off her shoes while swimming, but that is no hardship if one is going to walk on downy turf. It was delightful to be ashore again and to smell the earth and grass, even if at first the ground seemed to be pitching up and down like a ship, as it usually does for a while if one has been at sea. It was much warmer here than it had been on board, and Lucy found the sand pleasant to her feet as they crossed it. There was a lark singing. They struck inland and up a fairly steep, though low, hill. At the top, of course, they looked back, and there was the Dawn Treader, shining like a great bright insect, and crawling slowly northwest with her oars. Then they went over the ridge and could see her no longer. Dorne now lay before them, divided from Falmouth by a channel about a mile wide. Behind it and to the left lay Avra. The little white town of Narrowhaven on Dorne was easily seen. "Hullo, what's this?" said Edmund suddenly. In the green valley to which they were descending, 6 or 7 rough-looking men, all armed, were sitting by a tree. "Don't tell them who we are," said Caspian. "And pray, your majesty, why not?" said Reepicheep, who had consented to ride on Lucy's shoulder. "It just occurred to me," replied Shasta, "that no one here can have heard from Narnia for a long time. It's just possible they may not still acknowledge our overlordship, in which case it might not be quite safe to be known as the king." "We have our swords, sire," said Reepicheep. "Yes, Reep, I know we have," said Caspian, "but if it is a question of reconquering the 3 islands, I'd prefer to come back with a larger army." By this time they were quite close to the strangers, one of whom, a big black-haired fellow, shouted out, "A good morning to you." "And a good morning to you," said Caspian. "Is there still a governor of the Lone Islands?" "To be sure there is," said the man, "Governor Gumpus. His sufficiency is at Narrowhaven, but you'll stay and drink with us?" Caspian thanked him, though neither he nor the others much liked the look of their new acquaintance, and all of them sat down. But hardly had they raised their cups to their lips when the black-haired man nodded to his companions, and as quick as lightning all 5 visitors found themselves wrapped in strong arms. There was a moment's struggle, but all the advantages were on one side, and soon everyone was disarmed and had their hands tied behind their backs, except Reepicheep, writhing in his captor's grip and biting furiously. "Careful with that beast, Tex," said the leader. "Don't damage him. He'll fetch the best price of the lot, I shouldn't wonder." "Oh, dear." "Coward, poltroon!" squeaked Reepicheep. "Give me my sword and free my paws if you dare." Whew, whistled the slave merchant, for that is what he was. It can talk. Well, I never did. Blowed if I take less than 200 crescents for him. The Kellerman crescent, which is the chief coin in those parts, is worth about a third of a pound. So that's what you are, said Caspian, a kidnapper and a slaver. I hope you're proud of it. Now, said the slaver, don't you start any jaw. The easier do you take it, the pleasanter all around, see? I don't do this for fun. I've got my living to make same as anyone else. Where will you take us? Asked Lucy, getting the words out with some difficulty. Over to Narrowhaven, said the slaver, for market day tomorrow. Night 7-Eleven, Lucas. Peace out, sleep good. Is there a British consul there? Asked Eustace. Is there a witch? Said the man. But long before Eustace was tired of trying to explain, the slaver simply said, the, the slaver simply said, a tongue twister, well, I've had enough of this jabber. The mouse is a fair treat, but this one would talk the hind leg off a donkey. Off we go, mates. Then the 4 human prisoners were roped together, not cruelly but securely, and made to march down to the shore. Reepicheep was carried. He had stopped biting on a threat of having his mouth tied up, but he had a great deal to say, and Lucy really wondered how any man could bear to have the things said to him which were said to the slave dealer by the mouse. But the slave dealer, far from objecting, only said, "Go on," whenever Reepicheep paused for breath, occasionally adding, "It's as good as a play," or "Blimey, you can't help almost thinking it knows what it's saying." Or, "Was it one of you that trained it?" This so infuriated Reepicheep that in the end the number of things he thought of saying all at once nearly suffocated him, and he became silent. The robot is here. 888 Industries 640015. Confirmed robot. Without question. It's definitely a robot name. Nobody has a name like that. Like, probably a paid shill. Just here, like, leering. When they got down to the shore that looked toward Dorne, they found a little village and a long boat on the beach, and lying a little further out, a dirty but draggled-looking ship. Now, youngsters, said the slave dealer, let's have no fuss, and then you'll have nothing to cry about. All aboard! At that moment a fine-looking bearded man came out of one of the houses, an inn, I think, and said, "Well, Pug, more of your usual wares." The slaver, whose name seemed to be Pug, bowed very low and said in a wheedling kind of voice, "Yes, please, your lordship." "How much do you want for that boy?" asked the other, pointing to Caspian. "Ah," said Pug, "I knew your lordship would pick on the best. No deceiving your lordship with anything second rate. That boy now, I've taken a fancy to him myself. Got kind of fond of him, I have. I'm that tender-hearted. I didn't ever ought to have taken up this job. Still, to a customer like your lordship." Don't do an RV tonight. Russian vids? Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. No, I mean, I don't think anyone is actually a shill here. That's just a joke. Because that name, it's just really funny, and it just makes me think that it's a robot name. But I know him, so it's all good. But yeah, definitely not going off on the Russian vids tangent of like, I don't know. I don't understand all that stuff. Like the people just like tearing down other people in the community just because you maybe don't agree with whatever they're doing. It's like, well, I don't know. Don't watch their videos, don't buy their app, and don't go to their events. Pretty simple. But like you can't think of anything else to make a video about, so you have to just like do the cheap hit of trying to troll people. I don't understand that. Like yeah, I don't get it. At that moment, a fine-looking bearded man came out of the house. Oh, nope, we already read that. Whew, we're like halfway down the page. Excuse me. Tell me your price, Carrion, said the Lord sternly. Do you think I want to listen to the rigmarole of your filthy trade? 300 crescents, my lord, to your honorable lordship, but to anyone else, I'll give you 150. He who got me, joke, a beautiful mind you have, mon ami. You keep saying stuff in French, like, I know some Spanish, so that's a good trick that you're playing there. Could be saying anything. Could be like, haha, I hate this trick, but I'm saying it in a different language, so she doesn't know. People judge with no real facts. Yeah, exactly, because the people trolling, I didn't see them at Flattoberfest. Like, I mean, Russian Vids doesn't even show his face, so, you know, whatever. It's all good. Like, I don't watch people like that because it just, it doesn't seem like a good time. Because there's enough shit going on in the world that, like, how do you get enjoyment out of watching someone bash someone that you consider a friend or a good person or whatever? I don't know. Like, that's why I never watched Eric Dubay, because when I found Jeranism, he was talking about how Eric was like going crazy and bashing him, bashing Mark, blah, blah, blah. And so I just watched Mark Sargent and Jeranism. Zulu One, what's up? So yeah, I mean, like, props to you, Eric Dubay, for like talking shit about those people, because then I ended up watching them and I was like, oh yeah, I like those guys a lot, so I'm gonna stick with them. So yeah, they say all publicity is good publicity. So I mean, maybe. I mean, if people are gonna talk about you, might as well give them a good story. So. Oh, please, please, broke in Lucy. Don't separate us, whatever you do. You don't know. But then she stopped, for she saw that Caspian didn't even now want to be known. 100 and love you too, Zulu One. You're the best. You're the best. 150 then, said the Lord. As for you, little maiden, I'm sorry I cannot buy you all. Unrobe my boy pug, and look, treat these others well while you are in their hands, or it'll be the worse for you. Well, said Pug, now who ever heard of a gentleman in my way of business who treated his stock better than what I do? Well, why, I treat 'em like my own children. That's likely enough to be true, said the other grimly. Eric Dubay is a douchebag, just saying. Big facts. Yeah, big facts right there. Like, you know what? He may have woke up a bunch of people, but just never did it. Never did it for me. No. Found like Jeranism, Mark Sargent, D Marble, and then at that point in 2017, 2018, YouTube was liking Flat Earth, and so they recommended all kinds of people, and so, you know, found Globebusters, found like just, yeah, found so many people, and David Weiss, and yeah, just so many awesome people. So I think that people are just like, they're just like jealous and sad inside, and so I don't know, I don't get it, but whatever. It's like, I'm sad inside, but I'm not like making endless videos about why certain people are, you know, whatever. I don't know. um, the dreadful moment had come now. Caspian was untied, and his new master said, "This way, lad." Lucy burst into tears, and Edmund looked very blank. But Caspian looked over his shoulder and said, "Cheer up, I'm sure it will come out all right in the end. So long." "Now, missy," said Pug, "don't you start taking on and spoiling your looks for the market tomorrow." Oh my gosh, I'm really trying to get the hiccups. Like trying to get them and trying to hold them in. So it hurts. You be a good girl, and then you won't have nothing to cry about, see? That's right, good girls have nothing to cry about. Just saying. Just saying. Then they were rowed out to the slave ship and taken below into a long, rather dark place, none too clean, where they found many other unfortunate prisoners. For Pug was of course a pirate, and had just returned from cruising among the islands and capturing what he could. The children didn't meet anyone whom they knew. The prisoners were mostly Galmians and Terebinthians, and there they sat in the straw and wondered what was happening to Caspian, and tried to stop Eustace talking as if everyone except himself was to blame. Meanwhile, Caspian was having a much more interesting time. The man who had brought him led him down a little lane between two of the village houses, and so out into an open place behind the village. Then he turned and faced him. "You needn't be afraid of me, boy," he said. "I'll treat you well. I bought you for your face. You reminded me of someone." "May I ask of whom, my lord?" said Caspian. "You remind me of my master, King Caspian of Narnia." Then Caspian decided to risk everything on one stroke. "My lord," he said, "I am your master. I am Caspian, King of Narnia." "You make very free," said the other. "How shall I know this is true?" "Firstly, by my face," said Caspian. "Secondly, because I know within 6 guesses who you are. You are one of those 7 lords of Narnia whom my uncle Miraz sent to sea, and whom I have come out to look for. Argos, Byrne, Octesian, Restamar, Mavrimorn, or I have forgotten the others. And finally, if your lordship will give me a sword, I will prove on any man's body in clean battle that I am Caspian, the son of Caspian, lawful king of Narnia, lord of Cair Paravel, and emperor of the Lone Islands." "By heaven!" exclaimed the man, "it is his father's very voice and trick of speech. My liege, your majesty!" And there in the field he knelt and kissed the king's hand. "The moneys your lordship disbursed for our person will be made good from our own treasury," said Caspian. "They're not in Pug's purse yet, sire," said the Lord Byrne, for he it was, "and never will be, I trust. I have moved his sufficiency, the governor, 100 times to crush this vile traffic in man's flesh." "My lord Byrne," said Caspian, "we must talk of the state of these islands, but first, what is your lordship's own story?" "Short enough, sire," said Byrne. "I came thus far with my 6 fellows, loved a girl of the islands, and felt I had had enough of the sea, and there was no purpose in returning to Narnia while your majesty's uncle held the reins. So I married and have lived here ever since." "And what is this governor, this Gumpus, like? Does he still acknowledge the king of Narnia for his lord?" "In words, yes. All is done in the king's name, but he would not be best pleased to find a real live king of Narnia coming in upon him." "And if your majesty came before him alone and unarmed, well, he would not deny his allegiance, but he would pretend to disbelieve you. Your grace's life would be in danger. What following has your majesty in these waters?" "There is my ship just rounding the point," said Caspian. "We are about 30 swords, if it came to fighting. Shall we not have my ship in and fall upon Pug and free my friends whom he holds captive?" I really need my neck to pop. I got my back and neck popped at Flattoberfest by Dr. Law, and it was really nice. He got a really big pop in my low back, and like my neck sounded like he was breaking a tree branch. Ooh, felt so good. Oh my gosh. I need more of that, like all the time. All the time. Not by my counsel, said Byrne. As soon as there was a fight, 2 or 3 ships would put out from Narrowhaven to rescue Pug. Your Majesty must work by a show of more power than you really have, and by the terror of the King's name. It must not come to plain battle. Gumpus is a chicken-hearted man, and can be overawed. After a little more conversation, Caspian and Byrne walked down to the coast a little west of the village, and there Caspian winded his horn. This was not the great magic horn of Narnia, Queen Susan's horn. He had left that at home for his regent Trumpkin to use if any great need fell upon the land in the king's absence. Drinian, who was on the lookout for a signal, recognized the royal horn at once, and the Dawn Treader began standing in to shore. Then the boat put off again, and in a few moments Caspian and the Lord Byrne were on deck explaining the situation to Drinian. He, just like Caspian, wanted to lay the Dawn Treader alongside the slave ship at once and board her, but Byrne made the same objection. Steer straight down this channel, Captain, said Byrne, and then round to Avra, where my own estates are. But first, run up the King's banner, hang out all the shields, and send as many to the fighting top as you can. And about 5 bow shots hence, when you get open sea on your port bow, run up a few signals. Signals to whom? Said Jernian. Why, to all the other ships we haven't got, but which it might be well that Gumpus thinks we have. Oh, I see, said Jernian, rubbing his hands, and they'll read our signals, and shall I say, whole fleet round the south of Avra, and assemble at Burnstead, said the Lord Byrne. That'll do excellently. Their whole journey, if there were any ships, would be out of sight from Narrowhaven. Caspian was sorry for the others languishing in the hold of Pug's slave ship, but he could not help finding the rest of that day enjoyable. Late in the afternoon, for they had to do all by oar, having turned to starboard round the northeast end of Dorne and port again round the point of Avra, they entered into a good harbor on Avra's southern shore, where Byrne's pleasant lands sloped down on the water's edge. Byrne's people, many of whom they saw working in the fields, were all free men, and it was a happy and prosperous fief. Here they all went ashore and were royally feasted in a low, pillared house overlooking the bay. Byrne and his gracious wife and merry daughters made them good cheer, but after dark Byrne sent a messenger over by boat to Dorne to order some preparations. He did not say exactly what for the following day. Chapter 4. What Caspian did there. Where's Kirk Wilson? He's normally in story time. Hope he's doing okay. And Michelle L. He normally makes it here too. But he always gets unsubscribed to my channel. Like every single week. He's unsubscribed to my channel. So Michelle L. is actually named Ray. In case you didn't know. Just FYI. I'm rambling. Next morning, the Lord Byrne called his guests early, and after breakfast he asked Caspian to order every man he had into full armor. And above all, he added, let everything be as trim and scoured as if it were the morning of the first battle in a great war between noble kings, with all the world looking on. Still here, just cooking some shrimp creole. I don't know what that is, but I don't like shellfish, so like jambalaya. Isn't that the seasoning you put in jambalaya? Creole, Creole, Creole. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong both ways. Anyway, I do like jambalaya, but not a fan of shellfish. Bottom feeders of the sea, man. Let's see. When they reached the jetty at Narrowhaven, Caspian found a considerable crowd assembled to meet them. "This is what I sent word about last night," said Byrne. "They are all friends of mine and honest people." And as soon as Caspian stepped ashore, the crowd broke out into hurrahs and shouts of "Narnia, Narnia, long live the king!" At the same moment, and this was also due to Byrne's messengers, bells began ringing from many parts of the town. Then Caspian caused his banner to be advanced and his trumpet to be blown, and every man drew his sword and set his face into joyful sternness. And they marched up the street, so that the street shook, for their armor shone, for it was a sunny morning, so that one could hardly look at it steadily. At first, the only people who cheered were those who had been warned by Byrne's messenger, and knew what was happening, and wanted it to happen. But then all the children joined in because they liked a procession and had seen very few. And then all the schoolboys joined in because they also liked processions and felt that the more noise and disturbance there was, the less likely they would be to have any school that morning. F-E-P-E, the penguin. Hey, hey. At work, can't say much love. Much love to you, too. I hope you're doing well, my friend. Missed you at Flattoberfest, so hopefully you can make it to Solar Return once your training and all that is done with. And also, slight divergence here. I'm going to be planning a meetup around the winter equinox, winter solstice, whatever the heck it is. Whatever one is in December. Is it a solstice? Is it an equinox? I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to be planning to meet up here in Washington. Just have to find a place, as it will be December and it will be cold. And also, next year, in July, I'm going to be planning Conspiracy Camp West, which will be summer camp with flat earthers. And it's going to be awesome. So, again, have to call a place, find that. It's going to be really fun. So, yeah, Conspiracy Camp West. Super excited for that. Winter solstice. There you go. Sue's on it. This is why you're team leader. You keep us in line. You're the best. Bells are re-ringing, silent night, Christmas and New Year's by candlelight. Oh, what a Christmas. I love that song. Yeah, you know what? People are hating on Christmas music. I love Christmas time. The lights make me really, really happy. And I just, there's so much stress and shit in life right now that, like, if something gives you joy, just go with it. Just enjoy it and don't apologize. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm at on Christmas. And I am definitely, if I had my own place, I like to put up a Halloween tree for the whole month of October, and then immediately after Halloween is done, swap that over to Christmas. Because Thanksgiving is only 3 days. The rest is Christmas month and second Christmas month. And I don't care what anyone says against that. But yes, I like Christmas music, especially the just like nice classical, good music like that. So, yeah, I agree with you, Eric. And then all the old women put their heads out of the doors and windows and began chattering and cheering because it was a king. And what is a governor compared with that? And all the young women joined in for the same reason, and also because Caspian and Drinian and the rest were so handsome. Yeah, I would cheer for them too. Yes, let's please holler at the hot boys in the street. Yes, yes, indeed. And then all the young men came to see what the young women were looking at, so that by the time Caspian reached the castle gates, nearly the whole town was shouting, and where Gumpus sat in the castle, muddling and messing about with accounts of forms and rules and regulations, he heard the noise. I love Christmas music also, like the oldies like Nat King Cole, Frank Sinatra, stuff like that. Yeah, I dig it. I dig it. I'm down for it. It's good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, like Oh Holy Night, Silent Night, White Christmas. Yeah, I like them. I enjoy them quite a bit. So be festive, be merry, just find any joy in your life that you can and just go with it. Unapologetically. Yeah, all about it. At the castle gate, Caspian's trumpeter blew a blast and cried, "Open for the King of Narnia, come to visit his trusty and well-beloved servant, the governor of the Lone Islands." In those days, everything in the islands was done in a slovenly, slouching manner. Only the little postern opened, and out came a tousled fellow with a dirty old hat on his head instead of a helmet, and a rusty old pike in his hand. He blinked at the flashing figures before him. "Carn sees efficiency," he mumbled, which was his way of saying, "You can't see his sufficiency. No interviews without appointments except between 9 and 10 p.m. Second Saturday every month." Nat King Cole Christmas playlist? Hell yeah. I'm super down for that. "Uncover before Narnia, you dog!" thundered the Lord Byrne, and dealt him with a rap with his gauntleted hand, which sent his hat flying from his head. Oh, I am sorry. It just came out of nowhere and tried to kill me. Oof, wow. What's it all about?" began the doorkeeper, but no one took any notice of him. Two of Caspian's men stepped through the postern, and after some struggling with bars and bolts, for everything was rusty, flung both wings of the gate wide open. Then the king and his followers strode into the courtyard. Here a number of the governor's guards were lounging about, and several more, they were mostly wiping their mouths, came tumbling out of various doorways. Though their armor was in a disgraceful condition, these were fellows who might have fought if they had been led or had known what was happening. So this was the dangerous moment. Caspian gave them no time to think. "Where's the captain?" he asked. "I am more or less, if you know what I mean," said a languid and rather dandified young person without any armor at all. "It is our wish," said Caspian, "that our royal visitation to our realm of the Lone Islands should, if possible, be an occasion of joy and not of terror to our loyal subjects. If it were not for that, I should have something to say about the state of your men's armor and weapons. As it is, you are pardoned. Command a cask of wine to be opened that your men may drink our health. But at noon tomorrow I wish to see them here in this courtyard looking like men at arms and not like vagabonds. See to it on pain of our extreme displeasure." The captain gaped, but Byrne immediately cried, "Three cheers for the king!" And the soldiers who had understood about the cask of wine, even if they understood nothing else, joined in. Caspian then ordered most of his own men to remain in the courtyard. He, with Byrne and Jernigan and 4 others, went into the hall. Behind a table at the far end with various secretaries about him sat his sufficiency. The governor of the Lone Islands. Gumpus was a bilious-looking man with hair that had once been red and was now mostly gray. He glanced up as the strangers entered and then looked down at his paper saying automatically, "No interviews without appointments except between 9 and 10 p.m. on second Saturdays." No, it never really focuses on pictures. Get the gist. Caspian nodded to Byrne and then stood aside. Byrne and Jernigan took a step forward and each seized one end of the table. They lifted it and flung it on one side of the hall, where it rolled over, scattering a cascade of letters, dossiers, ink pots, pens, sealing wax, and documents. Then, not roughly, but as firmly as if their hands were pincers of steel, they plucked Gumpus out of his chair and deposited him facing it about 4 feet away. Caspian at once sat down in the chair and laid his naked sword across his knees. "My lord," said he, fixing his eyes on Gumpus, "you have not given us quite the welcome we expected. We are the king of Narnia." "Nothing about it in the correspondence," said the governor. "Nothing in the minutes. We have not been notified of any such thing. All irregular. Happy to consider any applications." "And we are come to inquire into your sufficiencies, conduct of your office," continued Caspian. "There are 2 points especially on which I require an explanation. Firstly, I find no record that the tribute due from these islands to the crown of Narnia has been received for about 150 years. "Michelle L., there you are! I was just asking about you." "What is a sword anything but naked?" "Well, I mean, it could be in its sheath. Isn't that the name for where you keep your sword? Does it go in a scabbard? What's the name? What's the name? Is it a sheath? Put your sword in the sheath?" "Haven't held many swords, so..." There, see? Barbara confirms it has a sheath. There we go. There we go. Michelle L. I made it. I didn't forget. And I'm so happy. And for at least a day or so, you were not unsubbed, I'm guessing, but we'll see what happens next week because YouTube is not a fan of you being a subscriber on my channel, apparently. So you're literally the only person who's like, "Yeah, I was unsubbed from you again, every time." I like kind of laugh every week that I'm like, "Oh, Michelle L subscribed to my channel. So nice of you to be back." Ugh, it's funny. I don't know why YouTube does that. Like, clearly you want to be here. So, hilarious. "That would be a question to raise at the council next month," said Gumpus. "If anyone moves that a commission of inquiry be set up to report on the financial history of the islands at the first meeting next year, why then..." "No, the sword does not have a sheath, nor can a sword put on a sheath, therefore I am right." "I don't believe you. I think that a sword has a sheath." "What's a scabbard? Why do I know that word? Why? Like, why?" It's so weird. It happens to me with a few people. That is weird. I mean, where else do you put your sword if you're not using it? Like, put it on your back or you put it on your hip. Holster? I mean, a gun has a holster, so it's not a holster. I'm going with sheath. Don't make me look it up. Please. We're not about to have a dictionary review here. I also find it very clearly written in our laws, Caspian went on, that if the tribute is not delivered, the whole debt has to be paid by the governor of the Lone Islands out of his private purse. At this, Gumpus began to pay real attention. Oh, that's quite out of the question, he said. It is an economic impossibility. Your Majesty must be joking. No, a sword goes into a sheath or into a scabbard, therefore it is not part of the sword. Yes, but to say a naked sword, that means that it's just the sword, not in its holder. So, like, he could have sat down and put his sword in his sheath or his scabbard, but he just laid his naked sword across his lap. So, that's how a sword can be naked, because it's like, I didn't come from the factory with clothes, but I am wearing clothes. And I don't know where I'm going with that thought. Anyway, um yeah, going naked sword is a sword not in its sheath or scabbard. So, we can just keep debating this all night, but that's what I'm going with. That's what I took it to mean. Now I know where to look and find everything, so that's awesome too. Well, I'm glad that you found yourself here, Michelle L. It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Inside, he was wondering if there were any way of getting rid of these unwelcome visitors. Had he known that Caspian had only one ship and one ship's company with him, he would have spoken soft words for the moment and hoped to have them all surrounded and killed during the night. But he had seen a ship of war sail down the straits yesterday and seen it signaling, as he supposed, to its consorts. He had not then known it was the king's ship, for there was not wind enough to spread the flag out and make the Golden Lion visible. So he had waited further developments. Now he imagined that Caspian had a whole fleet at Burnstead. It would never have occurred to Gumpus that anyone would walk into Narrowhaven to take the islands with less than 50 men. It was certainly not at all the kind of thing he could imagine doing himself. I was late because I was in RB's chat tonight. Yeah, well, you know what? This is a better place to be because I am not doing that stuff. So if you have the option to be in my chat or be in the chat of that nonsense, I think this is the better place to be. So yeah. Just saying. Just saying. Secondly, said Caspian, I want to know why you've permitted this abominable and unnatural traffic in slaves to grow up here, contrary to the ancient custom and usage of our dominions. Necessary, unavoidable, and his sufficiency, an essential part of the economic development of the islands, I assure you. Our present burst of prosperity depends on it. What need have you of slaves? For export, your majesty, sell them to Kellerman mostly, and we have other markets. We are a great center of the trade. In other words, said Caspian, you don't need them. Tell me what purpose they serve except to put money into the pockets of such as Pug. Your Majesty's tender years, said Gumpus, with what was meant to be a fatherly smile, hardly make it possible that you should understand the economic problem involved. I have statistics, I have graphs, I have... Tender as my years may be, said Caspian, I believe I understand the slave trade from within quite as well as your sufficiency, and I do not see that it brings into the islands meat or bread or beer or wine or timber or cabbages, or books, or instruments of music, or horses, or armor, or anything else worth having. But whether it does or not, it must be stopped. But that would be putting the clock back, gasped the governor. Have you no idea of progress, of development? I have seen them both in an egg, said Caspian. We'll call it going bad in Narnia. This trade must stop. I can take no responsibility for any such measure, said Gumpus. Very well, then, answered Caspian. We relieve you of your office. My Lord Byrne, come here. And before Gumpus quite realized what was happening, Byrne was kneeling with his hands between the king's hands and taking the oath to govern the Lone Islands in accordance with the old customs, rights, usages, and laws of Narnia. And Caspian said, I think we have had enough of governors, and made Byrne a duke, the Duke of the Lone Islands. As for you, my lord, he said to Gumpus, I forgive you your debt for the tribute, but before noon tomorrow, you and yours must be out of the castle, which is now the Duke's residence. Look here, this is all very well, said one of Gumpus's secretaries, but suppose all you gentlemen stop play acting, and we do a little business. The question before us really is, said the Duke, whether you and the rest of the rabble will leave without a flogging or with one. You may choose which one you prefer. When all this had been pleasantly settled, Caspian ordered horses, of which there were a few in the castle, though very ill-groomed, and he, with Byrne and Junian and a few others, rode out into the town and made for the slave market. It was a long, low building near the harbor, and the scene which they found going on inside was very much like any other auction. That is to say, there was a great crowd, and Pug, on a platform, was roaring out in a raucous voice, Now, gentlemen, lot 23, a fine Terebinthian agricultural laborer, suitable for the mines or the galleys. Under 25 years of age, not a bad tooth in his head, good brawny fellow, take off your shirt, tax, and let the gentleman see. There's muscle for you. Look at the chest on him. 10 crescents from the gentleman in the corner. You must be joking, sir. 15, 18. 18 is bidden for lot 23. Any advance on 18? 21. Thank you, sir. 21 is bidden. But Pug stopped and gaped when he saw the mail-clad figures, who had clanked up to the platform. On your knees, every man of you, to the king of Narnia, said the Duke. Everyone heard the horses jingling and stamping outside, and many had heard some rumor of the landing and the events at the castle. Most obeyed. Those who did not were pulled down by their neighbors. Some cheered. Did you change books or what? Starting to get risque? I mean, that's what happens when you're in the slave trade, I guess. That's funny. Your life is forfeit, Pug, for laying hands on our royal person yesterday, said Caspian, but your ignorance is pardoned. The slave trade was forbidden in all our dominions, quarter of an hour ago. I declare every slave in this market free. The dear little gal and the nice young gentleman, said Pug with an ingratiating smile, why, they were snapped up at once. We're here, Caspian, cried Lucy and Edmund together. At your service, sire, piped Reepicheep from another corner. They had all been sold, but the men who had bought them were staying to bid for other slaves, and so they had not yet been taken away. The crowd parted to let the three of them out, and there was great hand-clasping and greeting between them and Caspian. 2 merchants of Calormen at once approached. The Calormen have dark faces and long beards. They wear flowing robes of orange. They wear flowing robes and orange-colored turbans, and they are a wise, wealthy, courteous, cruel, and ancient people. They bowed most politely to Caspian and paid him long compliments, all about the fountains of prosperity, irrigating the gardens of prudence and virtue, and things like that. But of course, what they wanted was the money they had paid. That is only fair, sirs, said Caspian. Every man who has bought a slave today must have his money back. Pug, bring out your takings to the last minim. A minim is the 40th part of a crescent. Does your good majesty mean to beggar me? Whined Pug. You have lived on broken hearts all your life, said Caspian, and if you are beggared, it is better to be a beggar than a slave. But where's my other friend? Oh, him, said Pug. Take him and welcome. Glad to have him off my hands. I've never seen such a drug in the market in all my born days. Priced him at 5 crescents in the end, and even so, nobody'd have him. Threw him in free with other lots, and still no one would have him. Wouldn't touch him, wouldn't look at him. Tax, bring out Sulky. Bet you can imagine who Sulky is. Dear Eustace. He's such a terrible boy. Oh, it's so fun what happens to him. Oh, I can't wait. It's so good. So good. You just wait. It gets so good. Not in this chapter, but just wait. Thus, Eustace was produced, and sulky he certainly looked, for though no one would want to be sold as a slave, it is perhaps even more galling to be a sort of utility slave who no one will buy. He walked up to Caspian and said, I see, as usual, been enjoying yourself somewhere while the rest of us were prisoners. I suppose you haven't even found out about the British consul. Of course not. That night they had a great feast in the castle of Narrowhaven, and then, tomorrow for the beginning of our real adventures, said Reepicheep, when he had made his bows to everyone and went to bed. But it could not really be tomorrow or anything like it, for now they were preparing to leave all known lands and seas behind them, and the fullest preparations had to be made. The Dawn Treader was emptied and drawn on land by 8 horses over rollers, and every bit of her was gone over by the most skilled shipwrights. Then she was launched again and victualled and watered as full as she could hold, that is to say, for 28 days. 28 days later, even this, as Edmund noticed with disappointment, only gave them a fortnight's eastward sailing before they had to abandon their quest. While all this was being done, Caspian missed no chance of questioning all the oldest sea captains whom he could find in Narrowhaven to learn if they had any knowledge, or even any rumors, of land further to the east. He poured out many a flagon of the castle ale to weather-beaten men with short grey beards and clear blue eyes, and many a tall yarn he heard in return. But those who seemed the most truthful could tell of no lands beyond the lone islands, and many thought that if you sailed too far east you would come into the surges of a sea without lands that swirled perpetually around the rim of the world. And that, I reckon, is where your Majesty's friends went to the bottom. The rest had only wild stories of islands inhabited by headless men, floating islands, waterspouts, and a fire that burned along the water. Only one, to Reepicheep's delight, said, and beyond that, Aslan's country. But that's beyond the end of the world, and you can't get there. But when they questioned him, he could only say that he'd heard it from his father. Byrne could only tell them that he had seen his 6 companions sail away eastward, and that nothing had ever been heard of them again. He said this when he and Caspian were standing on the highest point of Avra, looking down on the eastern ocean. I've often been up here of a morning, said the Duke, and seen the sun come up out of the sea, and sometimes it looked as if it were only a couple of miles away. Yeah, a couple miles away, like in the firmament, maybe? Weird. Interesting. Crazy how that works, isn't it? And I've wondered about my friends and wondered what there really is behind that horizon. Nothing most likely, yet I am always half ashamed that I stayed behind. But I wish your majesty wouldn't go. We may need your help here. This closing the slave market might make a new world. War with Calorman in what I foresee. My liege, think again. I have an oath, my lord duke, said Caspian, and anyway, what could I say to reap a cheap? And that is the end of another 2 chapters. Oh, it's always so sad to end. And yet for the last book, so we have like half of the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, and then the next one is the Silver Chair, and then the last one is the last battle. So the last battle, we're going to have a really long stream. We're going to read that in an entire sitting. So that will probably be, that will probably be like a 5 or 6 hour stream. So I'm very excited for that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But we still have 1.5 more books to get through before we get to there. Occupied by headless men, what the? Yeah, I know, right? The headless men at the edge of the world. Maybe that's why we're not allowed to go there. Interesting. No, Lord of the Rings. Yeah, you have to be patient. That's all I can say. You have to be patient. You have to make it through 2.5 more books. And then, Eric, you get the Lord of the Rings. We're going to do The Hobbit, and we're going to do all 3 of the Lord of the Rings. Oh, it's going to be such a good time. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Wow, 5 hours, bring the pillow. Yeah, that will probably be a daytime into evening stream. I will not be starting that at 8 p.m. my time. But I think that's going to be really fun because these chapters are, pretty short, and the words are pretty big. So the chapters go pretty quickly. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to read that all in one sitting. Am I going through withdrawals for Flatoberfest? You have no idea. Yeah. I came back here and it was just like, hey, welcome back to the insanity. Yeah, I miss everyone so much. I did not want to leave South Carolina. And if you want to hear about my trip, that's on my YouTube. It was the stream that I did before this one. And it just says recap from Flattoberfest. And so I did that on Monday. And I talked all about all kinds of stuff. I got to stay with Bob and Cammie, which was amazing. Got to relax so much. Helped with name tags, helped with registration. Zulu's Angels went out for dinner. It was such a good time. It was so much fun. Yeah. I really did not want to leave at all. I spent like a week and a half in South Carolina, and it was not enough. I'm just going to say it was not enough. So South Carolina forever and always will have a piece of my soul. And I really want to be there permanently. So maybe one day, but yeah. On the kind of good news side of things, my garden job, which had ended the beginning of October, my manager said that I can come back next week because Walmart has no one to deal with the, we're going to get like Christmas cactus and poinsettias, like the holiday plants that are coming in. Walmart has no one to work those. And so they are going to allow us to come back. So I get to go back to work next week, which is very exciting. Yeah, very excited for that. So really looking forward to it. let me see. What was I gonna do? Well, this, no, that's not what I want to do. I want y'all to subscribe to my other channels, and I need to get links for them. I don't know. I'll get links. Oh wait, maybe it's right here. Apologize if the sound comes on. I don't know if sound is on this. Give it a second to load. Sound is off. Okay, awesome. So, let me see. Collapse? No, we don't want that. We want to share it. This, share. Okay, okay. Copy. Okay, so if you will please go to my Twitch and subscribe. And if you will please go to 1 second. Obviously, I should have done this before. Subscribe. There we go. If you will please subscribe to my D Live channel, let's help them both grow. Cause, oh, is there going to be sound? Sound off. Perfect. Perfect. I'm figuring it out. Invite friends, get lemon. Yep, that's what we want to do. That is copied. So if you will also subscribe here. There we go. So you're all here on YouTube. But if you would please subscribe to my Twitch, which is Dottie's World, and my D Live, which is Retarded Bear. Both of those you have options to donate to me while I'm live. I would appreciate it greatly. And if you don't want to use those options to donate, you can do it at P.O. Box 1598, Shelton, Washington, 98584. You can do it at paypal.me/findingdottie, and you can do it at Cashapp, $Dottiesdomes. So those are all the places that you can find me, find my streams, and the ways that you can donate to me if you would like to. And I would greatly appreciate it. So, well, let me do some shout outs, and then it's probably about time to get out of here. As sad as that always is. Finding Dottie, you were lost. I mean, only mentally. So hello to Eric DeLeon, Michelle L, Stu Finelli, team leader, the best. Barbara Zena Bear, FEPE, the penguin. Oh. Give me 1 sec. Let's stick around and get him. FEPE. 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 Beep. Beep. FEPE. Penguin. Gonna get him a wrench. Shout out to Ace McLeod. Haha. Okay, there we go. FEPE. Penguin. FEPE. I never know how to pronounce his channel name, so I just spell it out because that's what I do. Barbara Zena Bear, she's awesome. Zulu One, my bestie. La 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 la. 888 Industries 640015. Definitely a robot confirmed. 711 Lucas, Bane Bear. Some of these people have probably fallen asleep. That's okay. I don't take offense to it. Clem Fandango, he was just lurking. I don't know how long he lurked for. Is that a Moto G7? That's what I have. It is a, what the heck is it? It's a Motorola 5G stylus. Yeah, I like it quite a bit. It's a good phone for a phone. I don't know. The big selling point was the camera. Look at all them cameras on that thing. Ooh, fancy. Yeah, that was the biggest selling point on this bad boy. very pleased with it. So yeah, I think that is about it. So this will be uploaded into the Voyage of the Dawn Treaders. Oh my god, the hiccups. They're killing me. This will be uploaded to the Voyage of the Dawn Treaders playlist. And yeah, if you want to listen to all the other stories, start at The Magician's Nephew, continue on to The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, The Horse and His Boy. Why do I keep blanking on the title names? What the heck was the one we just read? Horse and His Boy, Prince Caspian. Yeah. And then The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. You can listen to the whole series. So, I thank you all for being here. And I'll see y'all next week, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So I think that's 11 for all y'all East Coasters. But yeah, I appreciate you being here, and I will see y'all on the flat side. Much love, guys and gals. Bye-bye. Bye.